The Cubs are a crown jewel franchise. We're going to explain why they need to start acting like it.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below, which certainly happened in the Nico Horner episode. Wow. Today's episode is presented by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right state can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball, and get the Booking.com app today. Fun discussion today on the show, and to close out, we're going to interview Marquee junior broadcaster from this year, Parker Meade, so make sure to stick around for that. In an episode of his own podcast on The Ringer this past August, about 2 months ago, Bill Simmons, someone that Sam and I have both enjoyed the last several years, revealed his rankings of crown jewel franchises amongst the so-called Big Four of American sports. So MLB, NHL, NBA, NFL. Out of those 124 teams, Simmons had the Cubs 12th, meaning they are in the top 10% in all of sports. A crown jewel franchise, according to Simmons, is based on city, history, generation of fans, and how impactful a championship is/was. So I want to do three things with this, Sam. One, I just want to make it known first, meaning, okay, let's remind us all how large of stature the Cubs carry as a franchise and enjoy that. Two, are the Cubs currently operating as a crown jewel? And three, what we would like to see them do on and off the field if they want to keep such a high spot in something like this.
So that was a great introduction. I want to add one thing to it too, and this isn't from Simmons; it's more from me.
Yeah,
it's like when you'll talk about some of the teams that were listed, maybe, but for example, Dallas, I think, was number one or number two, the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the reasons why they're so up there is no matter how they're doing on the field, it's always a big story. So like relevancy, no matter what. Like when people see, oh, the Cubs are on ESPN tonight, you could be in Wyoming and you're just like, oh, how are the Cubs doing this year? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
relevancy is the best word for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the public test, like you
Right.
go to a theme park and you see their shirt type thing.
Right. Yeah. So the Cubs were 12th on that list, and
yes.
I think it was probably correct. I think the easiest thing for us to do is to shrink it to a baseball only to start, because it's just net worth is a part of it, and you just can't compete with some of the football teams and the basketball teams. But it's the Yankees, and then I really do believe the Cubs are right there after that. I know the Dodgers are kind of the unanimous number two, but because so much of their history took place in a different city, I really think the Cubs are right there. It's Cubs, it's Yankees, Cubs, Dodgers, Red Sox. Yankees are unanimous one, and then I think you could order 2, 3, 4, however you'd like. And I think the Cardinals are right there as well, based on what they mean to their city, because that's all they have there. But the Cubs have an amazing tradition. I personally believe, and I want to talk about this sometime on the offseason too. The Cubs truly are up there with the best fans in the world. The combination of loyalty, passion, and at times accountability. Another huge thing is, of course, the venue that they play in. You're talking about a top 3-4 venue in all the country. I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is Fenway and maybe Madison Square Garden. I mean, I don't know. It's the venue, and It's just a beautiful place to be a star. If I worked for the Cubs, I would sell so many stars, so many free agents on what it's like to be a star, because, Ernie Banks was one. We've talked a lot about Sosa, and Bryant had a very short, maybe 2 to 3 year run, but we haven't had a guy like that in quite a bit. And, to answer your second question, are they acting like when the answer, of course, is no. But I think it is cool to at least acknowledge that the Cubs are firmly in that conversation as one of the biggest and most important franchise in all sports. And I'll tell you one other thing that has to do with that. It's 3 letters: WGN.
Well, that's true, though. Yeah.
That plays a huge part because that gave the Cubs that national credibility, that national cachet. And that's another thing too, like the history of the broadcasters. I mean, people always talk about Harry Carey, but before that was the great Jack Brickhouse. And I mean, even, the great Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, no, speak on it.
Yeah, you used to dabble into working with the Cubs, and when he was president of the United States, I mean, he went into Harry Carey's broadcast.
Crazy.
Cubs were hosting the Pirates. I mean, it's a historic franchise, and it's frustrating the way it's been run the last few years.
Let's keep this conversation going right after this.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play. There's no faster play-by-play than when you just go on the app. It's ahead of everything. And so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Folks, when you think about Big Ten football, you don't think about Michigan and Ohio State. No. You don't think about Wisconsin versus Minnesota. You don't think Illinois Northwestern. You think about a Saturday afternoon in October, the Iowa Hawkeyes hosting the Washington Huskies.
Oh my gosh! I think you're going to give a shout out to Indiana, who's a playoff contender,
because their schedule's too easy.
Yeah, well,
and I'm not going to do it.
That's going to be a 9 a.m. kickoff for Washington.
I like Iowa and the 2.5 a lot this Saturday on FanDuel. Iowa favored by 2.5. Mark me down. Iowa, the black and yellow, are going to find a way to win that game by at least a field goal. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook.
We're also brought to you by Game Time, whether it's a Cubs game, comedy show, or a concert. I love going to live events, and now Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite event easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets with killer last-minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The experience of searching for and then buying tickets on Game Time is simple. Plus, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it?
Game time.
Bill Simmons ranked the top 15 crown jewel franchises on an episode of his podcast on The Ringer in August. It goes as follows: Cowboys, Yankees, Lakers, Celtics, Dodgers, 49ers, New York Football Giants, Warriors, Knicks, Packers, Steelers, Cubs, Red Sox, Chicago Bears, and New York Rangers. I thought you summed it up and added to it in our first segment, Sam. And I would just say about the fan base, I had a moment sitting at Club 400 in good old Lake in the Hills about 10 days ago. And when Justin Roman was doing the interview with Sammy Sosa, I had this moment where I was looking around the room, even though it wasn't a room because we were outside. And I was looking around and there's people sitting, there's people standing, people are cheering Cubs, Sammy, Sammy. And I was just looking around, I was thinking, how passionate is this fan base to be out here in the boonies on a Saturday night with a Cubs legend? It's 10:30 p.m. at night. The active team is out of it, and they've been out of it, by the way. But look at this passion. If we can do this again in the present day, how special it would be. We don't need to go back that far, right? 2016. And you made a great point about WGN, that the Cubs really did take off in the mid to late 80s. Then it was punctuated with Sosa. Then it really peaked again with the 15, 16, 17 teams, culminated with the World Series title. But I just had a moment looking around of, there really isn't many fan bases like that. And according to Simmons, there's only 11 more like that. And in baseball, I always thought it was a clear 4. Again, whatever order you want to use after the Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Dodgers. And I want to, yes, enjoy this, embrace it. And for me, the expectation would be the Cubs need to be excellent at everything. Whether it's an executive, a player, a manager, a coach, a groundskeeper, an usher, a broadcaster. I don't care if those listening right now, maybe that is cheesy. Maybe you rolled your eyes. The Cubs need to be great, and not some of these things, but all of it. Yeah. And then there's, of course, the baseball part.
Right. Yeah, I just, I think for me, the questions, are the Cubs acting like it? I think what brought the Cubs to this conversation is for lack of a better term, a mom and pop approach, meaning, it's WGN, only the Cubs play this many day games. It's Wrigley, it's Harry Carey's unique style and Brick House. And when you watch what's going on now, you just can't help but think they're just a part of the pack. The Marquee network, I've always said, it just has such a corporate-y feel to it. And no disrespect to Boog, I just don't feel like he falls in line with the Cubs broadcasters of the past. It's more of a national type of, analytics type
national feel.
Yeah, a national feel. And with the way Jed runs the team, and how it's, it's numbers, it's binders, it's wins above replacement. It doesn't feel like we run ourselves like we're this unique Cubs team. It just feels like we've played copycat. And sometimes you have to do that for success, because you have to keep up with the trends. But like the off the field stuff for me, like I've never. It is, what is it, Matt? Is this going to be year 5 of Marquee coming up? Yeah, COVID.
6. Well, coming up will be 6. They just concluded year 5.
Yeah, I still don't feel like it's part of me yet.
Yeah, no, they're already 5 years in.
I still don't feel like
that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
You're not to not have your main vehicle that we attach to every single day. Not to mention it's a companion sport, so we do it almost as a requirement.
Yep.
But if their own channel that they launched while dismissing the other teams in the town and their broadcast partner, that's bad.
Yeah, well, what do you? I mean, do you agree with what I'm saying?
I do.
It feels like
they have. I like the presentation in terms of what I'm visually taking a look at.
Yeah, agree.
But the packaging and the broadcast play-by-play and commentary has been lacking.
It's just for me. It's the message. Like the message is just, hey, everything's fine. Like, thanks, great, good. It's not the same.
It doesn't track with what's happening in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's every at bat, we got to hear about this guy's trends and over the last 17, he's hitting 381, and it's just not as authentic as I remember Cubs baseball being. And basically, like, it doesn't have a crown jewel feel to it. Like, of course, in the NFL, you don't have local broadcast. Like the Lakers, I mean,
Right.
when I watch the Lakers play or I watch the Celtics play and they're announcing, you're watching a Laker game.
That's cool.
You're watching a Celtic game. When you turn on Michael Kay and Paul O'Neill in May, you're watching a Yankee game. It doesn't feel like that, so.
Wow.
But that's just my opinion. I mean,
right.
You're entitled to your own opinion.
And by the way, Tom Ricketts has elevated the Cubs. We're talking crown jewel, that adjective. What happened around the park was just for many years was just a sketch in our minds or a mock-up on a whiteboard or whatever it was. And he actually did it. And the park survived and then some,
right?
In the surrounding area. And so I do want to highlight that because, from Grace there, where Almost Home is and Obvious Shirts, all the way to Addison, it's a great experience, a great environment. Obviously around the perimeter of the stadium as well. And of course, once you get to your seat, it's incredible. I want to enjoy this. I want to embrace it. I am. I just think there is a little bit of it feels like there's a gap, and that's because there is.
Well,
and while it's good that they're number 12 in all of American sports, and they should be, and I thought maybe they should even be
a little higher
in the top 10. But I think that a punch that they were able to execute, in years past, they have been unable to recently.
Well, if you're on the crown jewel list, there's only 2 teams on that list in their respective sports that wouldn't be in the conversation for a 25-year-old free agent superstar. One of them's us, and the other one's probably the Red Sox. Everybody else, you have a 25-year-old free agent superstar. The Warriors are talking to him. The Yankees are talking to him. The Packers are talking to him. Everyone's talking to him except us in Boston because baseball has lost its financial ability to do those things.
And if we were Locked On Bears, we could talk about their status as 14th, which was a surprise to me.
It wasn't to me, but this isn't Locked On Bears, so we can't discuss it. We could have had a good I mean, just go watch tapes of 85. I mean, the city was on fire.
And that's why that part of how impactful a championship is/was, that I get that.
And you have, first NFL franchise part of it. That matters.
Got it. All right, coming up next,
I'm dancing.
We talk to Parker Meade. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition's stadium cuisine. Well, luckily on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rivals cities. Right now, maybe that's New York or Philly or Cleveland or Detroit or New York times 2 or Kansas City, San Diego or LA. No matter what team you are rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any city around the country, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah.
Yeah.
We're now pleased to be joined by Parker Meade, a huge Cubs fan, and him and his dad are listeners to Locked On Cubs. Parker won the Wintrust Junior broadcaster experience for Marquee earlier this year. Parker, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us how you sent in your audition to Marquee for that opportunity. When did you first hear about that contest, and how did you game plan in order to eventually be the winner?
Well, we were just watching the Cubs game, and we were sitting on the couch, and then Bellinger hit that home run off the scoreboard, and then they had a commercial play because there's a new pitcher coming in, and it said like enter into the Cubs junior broadcast, and then we saw that, and I looked at my dad, and I'm like, can we do that? And he's like, well, sure. And then we went out in the garage, and we took a video, and then we went to the website and sent that in, and then the next day I ended up getting on it after, like, I was coming home from baseball practice, and my mom was watching TV, and it just came on the marquee, and it was just really cool to see myself on TV.
Wow. Parker, I have a few things to say. Number one, your background really shows up, Matt and myself, that you probably should have your own show. A lot of people are going to comment on that. And number two, I'd like to congratulate you because your inning on TV or half inning, whatever it was by far the best marquee audio all season long. You were terrific. I was engaged. I was actually watching that game. Well, it was Cubs Pirates, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think it was. I was watching at my mom's, and when you came on, my mom, who doesn't really like a lot of baseball, she came up, and we were locked in every pitch for the only time all season. So congratulations to you. You were outstanding.
Thank you so much.
My question to you is how did you have you just been are you kind of like me where you were just born into a Cubs family and so your dad just kind of forced you to be a Cub fan? And who's your favorite Cub on this current club?
My favorite Cub on this current club is Pete Crow-Armstrong.
Wow.
Okay,
good answer.
That's a good answer. Matt?
So when are your first memories of being a Cubs fan? For Sam's first question there.
Yeah.
So I was about 4 or 3 maybe, and
wow,
the Cubs won the World Series.
Come on.
And then my dad went crazy, and I was like, what's going on here? He's like, the Cubs did it. They won. And then I was like, well, I didn't really know much about baseball yet, and I was like, nice.
Parker, what do you think about me in terms of like, I'm kind of the negative one on this show. If you listen to it regularly, you seem like you have a lot of healthy, positive, young energy. Convince me why I should be positive about this team going forward. What's there to be happy about?
I think it's going to be happy about our hitting. Our hitting has been looking really good, and our pitching staff, I like Porter Hodge at the closer. I think he should keep closing in the games and maybe make a trade or something to try to get Mason Miller from the A's.
Yeah, well, that would be – Matt's been suggesting that since about 1994. That would be great. The Porter Hodge thing, I got this fly. I can't get rid of this fly here. Porter Hodge it will be the closer in 25.
Oh yeah, I think he's a really good closer. He hasn't had a lot of bad closes. I think he's done really good. He's
just a little too late.
Well, I think the Cubs shouldn't have got rid of Hunter Biggie. I think he should have stayed. I would rather have Christopher Mel, Isaac Paredes, and then keep that because I think Hunter Biggie is going to be a good closer in the future.
Wow. Why is PCA your favorite player, and would you ever consider getting his jersey?
I already have his jersey, and he's my favorite player because he runs hard and I run hard, and I love watching him in outfield because he runs hard and he's just a great player and he's fun to watch.
I made a public announcement about 2 weeks ago that on my birthday I'm going to be buying myself a PCA jersey because I feel the exact same way. Parker, do you play baseball?
Yeah, I guess I could give a shout out here. I play
Please.
for the Kendallville Titans.
That's out in Indiana there. What position do you play?
Yeah.
I play second, catcher, outfield. I pitch a little bit, and maybe like every once in a while I'll play a little shortstop.
Oh.
So how was your experience with Boog and JD? What do you remember about that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget that. But it was super fun being up in the booth because I got a score sheet and it had all the stuff on it. It was super cool. And when I was up there, they had like a ton of TVs that you can see everything. And just being up there, I mean, you had the best seat in the house.
When you were calling the game, were you watching it live or were you calling it off the TV? Were you watching the game and calling it from the field, or were you calling it from the TVs? Does that make sense what I'm asking you?
Yeah. So like, are you talking about like after he hit the home run?
Yeah, like when you were announcing the game, were you watching the game or were you watching the screens?
Oh, I was watching the game.
You're watching the game. Very cool.
I feel like it's more better to just watch the game instead of the TV.
It's hard. That's hard to do
Yeah.
it though. It's hard to know, how far a ball was hit and all that. I mean, you really felt like you had been, practicing and doing that for a good long while.
Yeah. Sometimes in my room, I mean, I play video games sometimes, but like baseball, MLB The Show, or Madden or something, football, baseball, basketball, whatever. And sometimes I just broadcast the games because it's just something fun.
I do it to this day. Happy. I do it to this day. I watch the Cubs. I pretend broadcast it and wish that I got the opportunity that you got, but there's no contest for me.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to dream about for sure. And I'll make sure to cut up the home run call, Parker, and attach it to the end of our segment here. What can you tell us about when the Cubs and/or Marquee called you to tell you that you won? What was that process like?
Well, so my dad got a call a week before it was gonna get put on the marquee of who won, and he didn't tell me yet because we had a pool party planned for the next week, and then we were swimming, and my mom said, "Everybody come inside. The Cubs thing that Parker did is about to turn on the TV." And we all went inside, and they called my name, and we all went crazy.
Very, very
amazing.
Cool. Well, Parker, I got to tell you, I'm really glad that you reached out to me on Twitter. You. By the way, I don't know what's in the water these days, but like our listeners, I mean, I'm interacting with. I felt like I was interacting with a 20-year-old. I mean, he responds. He's
a smart kid.
Yeah, he responds to everything I say. He asks the questions, the appropriate questions. He was on time. I wish some of the people I worked with were like this. But thanks for reaching out to us, Parker. We're glad to have you on. Maybe we'll have you on again when we do our holiday
absolutely
watch along. You were really cool, man. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, when you're on for the holiday stream, we'd love to have you back.
All right.
And final question, what are your thoughts on Craig Counsell's first season with the Cubs? Go ahead.
I think he had an okay season. Obviously, they had the same record, but I think there's been some changes. I think the hitting's gotten better. I think the pitching's got a little bit better, especially with the closers and stuff. Porter Hodge, obviously, he's been outstanding, and Craig, he's a good coach. I think he had a better season hitting wise than Rossi, but pitching wise, I think they're about the same. I think maybe they've got a little better with the closers. Starters have been pretty good. Steele, and about Alzolay, I mean, he had a good year last year in 23, but this year, I mean, with that injury, and he had a couple bad starts. But I think he's going to bounce back this season, or we'll make a trade for something. Mason Miller is who I want, though.
Okay. All right, Parker. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Parker.
See ya.